Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. I've got a treat in store for you. Research shows that although 4 out of 5 entrepreneurs believe that they have a good, if not certain, chance of success, 74% of new startup businesses fail. We talk about that often on Get Down to Business, most often due to overconfidence and loss aversion. Furthermore, according to research teams, decision makers tend to escalate their commitment even when knowing they're in a failing course of action. That's why I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Vincent deFilippo, who is a professor in the School of Accounting and Business at Monroe College. Prior to that, he was CEO of a private equity fund in Hong Kong, raising several $billions in venture capital for entrepreneurs and publicly traded companies throughout the Asia-Pacific region. That's why I'm so excited to bring him onto the program. Dr. deFilippo has 2 master's degrees, along with professional certifications from Harvard, Brown, MIT, Columbia, New York Film Academy, and Hollywood Film School. His new book is called Breaking Point: How Escalation and Commitment is Destroying the World and How You Can Save Yourself. Vincent, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor and definitely a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely. Well, with all of those accolades, and I honestly only shared maybe 5% of it, I don't know how you had time to write a book, but we're glad you did because it's something that we talk about frequently on Get Down to Business. I want to make sure we share with our listeners. So let's start with it. Breaking Point: How Escalation of Commitment is Destroying the World. What inspired you to write this book, Vincent?
My own setbacks in life inspired me in the beginning because I was very early on. I started working on Wall Street when I was 18 years old, and I've had a long career in the finance industry. But I was a very busy and active stock trader, and I managed portfolios for high net worth individuals. And there were times where I would just pick a stock and it would just go, and I felt like a genius. Then there was other times where I did the same amount of research, same amount of work looking at charts, and I would have losses. And those losses would, become significant. And then I realized that later on in life, when I started studying behavior and studying how could I make better decisions, I stumbled across 2 interesting professors. And one group was Starr and Ross. Okay, Professor Starr came up with escalation of commitment. But I went a little bit further. There was a gentleman named Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. Kahneman and Tversky, they won the Nobel Prize for prospect theory. Both theories are very similar, escalation of commitment and loss and prospect theory, because they're talking about losses. They're talking about how we as individuals are we're unable to accept loss. We don't like to lose. So I started to realize that I had some cognitive biases. I had some, problems when I was making decisions, that I let my emotions get involved. I had anchoring bias and other things that we'll talk about as we go. But I really wanted to evaluate how can I, as an investor and a leader, how can I make better decisions? And I started looking at behavioral finance, decision making, and these 2 theories really stuck out because they made me realize I made a lot of mistakes because of my own emotions and cognitive biases. So hence I started going back to school and studying it, and that's when I got my doctorate and I wrote the book. And I wrote the book during the pandemic. I had a lot of time.
A lot of time. I can relate to that. And you've already sort of jumped in on this quite a bit in terms of some of those examples. We'll dive deeper into that as we progress. But one thing that we're talking about so often on this program is, we're having this conversation at the end of 2023, believe it or not. Everybody's talking about big data, AI. So are these new trends going to help us make better decisions regarding when to walk away from a failing project?
That's a great point, because AI is the hot buzz right now, right? And everybody wants to, on the investment side, everyone's looking for that next big investment in AI. But as far as, let's look at my particular field, financial services, AI has been active in my particular industry, because we've had robo-advisors, we've had different types of algorithms and different types of, programs that have tried to make better investment decisions for us. And going forward, how do we manage a portfolio? AI is becoming more and more prevalent, but we have to remember humans are programming these things, and It's not perfect AI. Will it get better in the future? I believe it will. But there needs to be some transitional period. There needs to be some time. AI is going to affect a lot of businesses. It makes me wonder how many jobs are going to be left for our children, right, in the future. But I really believe that, you can't replace sometimes that gut instinct or, that experience level of a business person or an experienced entrepreneur who's been through the ups and downs, or an experienced trader that understands, the behavior of the markets, right? So it's going to be a big input, I think, but we need to allow it time to develop. It's got to work out its bugs, and we can't rely 100% on AI making decisions because the fact-checking part, right? AI is just coming up with whatever knowledge. That famous story about the lawyer who used AI to do a disposition, a document.
We've talked about it on the program. You cannot rely on it. You cannot rely on it, and there's no replacement for, again, that's a good example. And just before we cut to break, I'm chatting with Dr. Vincent deFilippo, a professor in the School of Accounting and Business at Monroe College. Vincent, real quick, how does escalation of commitment pertain to areas of our lives outside of business?
Think about relationships. Why do you stay in a relationship that is, it's toxic, it's destructive, right? We keep on escalating because sometimes we just feel the person's going to change, or if we put more effort in and more time, that they're going to be different or treat us better. There's a lot of people that stay in abusive relationships because they're afraid to lose all that sunk cost, all that time they put in, especially on the investment side or even politics. Look at politics, the way we want to win the argument.
No question about it. We're going to have to leave it there for a moment. We're going to come back with Dr. Vincent deFilippo, the author of Breaking Point, How Escalation of Commitment is Destroying the World. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Continuing my conversation with the author of Breaking Point, How Escalation of Commitment is Destroying the World, and how you can save yourself. I'm chatting with Dr. Vincent deFilippo. And Vincent, you were just sharing with me how, again, definitely escalation of commitment pertains to areas of our lives outside of business. We were talking about relationships, and appreciate you sharing that, and appreciate you sharing, your personal connection with it. So do you mind briefly sharing with us a modern day example of an escalation of commitment in a business context?
It happens a lot in project management. It happens a lot in technology even. Like what if you and I are entrepreneurs, we're starting a business, we put some money into building this platform, and we go out and we need to build a manufacturing plant. It's going to cost us $20 million. Well, after we've sunk in $10 million, halfway through, we realize our model wasn't the best thought out. Technology has changed. Maybe our platform is obsolete, or that we can outsource and maybe save a lot of money, but we continue to go forward. We continue because we don't want to lose face. We self-justify our original decision-making and the data that we looked at, and we kind of try to make it fit and confirm that things haven't changed so drastically that we need to, stop our endeavor, and we pour money into it. We pour more money into a losing situation. I've learned this in stocks, right? You buy a stock, it goes down, right? And then what do? We're taught to average cost down, right? Dollar cost averaging. Don't be sore, buy some more, right? But unfortunately, we start trying to catch a falling knife, and we bleed to death because when the stock goes down 20, 30, 40%, something's drastically wrong with the fundamentals. So, we have to be aware of our own biases, and we have to be aware that sometimes our emotions play a big effect in our decisions.
Vincent, with all of your credentials, I know you've been studying this, and again, you wrote this book during COVID. You mentioned that already. I know you've thought a lot about this. So what is it about human nature that drives us to persist in a failing pursuit?
So, I touched upon it with the loss part, right? We don't want to lose. And cognitive biases are very real, like anchoring. When you go to buy a new car, what's the first thing you do? You look at the sticker, right? The sticker on the window. That's the anchor price. And then when the car salesman, nothing wrong with car salesmen, but when they come to you, they're saying, well, I'm going to get you a great deal. We can knock that sticker price down $5,000, maybe $10,000. You feel great because you have the anchor, right? So we have these subliminal messages, really, these cognitive biases and emotions that we're all born with, right? And there's nothing wrong with, having these. We need to work on developing more awareness of it so we can kind of correct that decision-making process and make higher probability of success decisions. And if you look, my recommendation is look at Kahneman and Tversky. They wrote some great books, Daniel Kahneman, and, he's got some great stuff on behavioral finance and decision-making, and the guy won the Nobel Prize. Pretty impressive.
Dr. Vincent deFilippo, again, it's a great read, Breaking Point, How Escalation and Commitment is Destroying the World, and most importantly, how you can save yourself. I know you're a member of the Writers Guild. You have a doctorate in business administration, concentration, and behavior, decision-making, leadership. Certainly the right guy for this conversation. I can't wait to have you back on the program. But in the meantime, I know our listeners will want to get in touch with you and certainly pick up a copy of this book that came out just a few months ago. How can they do that?
You can go to Amazon and just put in Breaking Point, BRAKING, like a braking on a car. Or they can even go to my website, vincentdefilippo.com, or they can just check me out where I work, which is my private equity fund in New York on Wall Street, which is VIENNACAP.com, ViennaCap.com. Has my information there, even has my mobile number. If anyone has questions or needs guidance, any advice, I've started a lot of businesses. I failed a little bit. I've won a lot. And I have a lot of experiences to share, and that's what I really love. I love to just share these experiences to help people make better decisions and hopefully avoid some of the mistakes I made.
Yeah, we've all been there, done that. That's a wrap for us here. Absolutely. That's a wrap for us here on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. We'll talk to you next Sunday at 6 p.m. To success. Let's get down to business.